Maybe you're like I was for the past couple of years. You're not quite where you'd like to be in your life. Maybe you see where other people are and you panic. You worry that you're far behind, even a failure. Perhaps you compare yourself to where you thought you'd be by now and wonder what you've done with all this time. But let me tell you, there's no set timescale. Maybe you've heard that so much that it becomes a bit of a cliche, but I really want to drive that point home. I mean, think about how fundamentally different we all are. We're brought up in different areas by different parents who have different ideals, different life experiences. We all experience different levels of trauma, different hardships. We spend different amounts of time socialising. We even perform differently at an academic level. Yet we still expect everyone to be able to adhere to some non-existent script. It just doesn't work like that, and that's totally fine. The reason I want to talk about this today is to say a few of the things that I wish I knew. If I can share this with anyone and it helps even one person to think a wee bit differently, that's fantastic, I'll take that. To show you where I'm at now, I'm 25 and I'm just planning to go to university now. But I'm, to be honest, finally at peace with it. I'm not worried about being late necessarily. Although I've been incredibly guilty of that in the past. I've moved away from this school-enforced idea of planning well into the future, which is something I've realised just isn't really possible nor practical. I've learned it's better to plan shorter-term goals. Too much can change to plan really long-term, and that's fine. Having long-term goals and dreams and ambitions is great, but to put too much pressure on yourself, as I found out, I think just is an overwhelmingly negative thing. My plans now are really just to continue what I'm doing, grow accordingly and just adapt to whatever scenarios come up, and that's totally fine. Even now, people ask me, well, what will you do after university? What are you going to do with that degree? What do you want to do with the rest of your life? But the reality is, how can I know that? Any amount of things can change between now and then, and I'll just adapt to them as they come along, and to me, that's totally fine. Think about how many difficulties you faced in your childhood. For me, high school was an absolutely massive one. From then, I tried to jump straight into the adult world without processing any of the previous years, and if anything, I just ignored them. Now, while I'm not the professional who can tell you what's the best way to process any of that, obviously, what I can be fairly sure of is that everyone has different ways of processing them. For me personally, it was just a gradual realisation really that the normal, so to speak, way of life was just not for me. Even speaking about this was often met with criticism and doubt, but the way I saw it was that smashing my head into a wall over and over again, trying to do the same thing, was just leaving me down the darkest avenues in my life, so why would I do that? Now, of course, I'm not claiming that I'm doing things the right way or that I know the right way, but that's the point in itself. There is no right way. Do what you think is best for you. Of course, take advice from people who care about you along the way, but not envy disguised as criticism. And with this as well, I'll add that plenty of people will just never understand, no matter how much you try to explain, so don't waste too much of your time trying to justify your actions to others. Just let the results speak for themselves. And perhaps you're wondering then, well, what next? What do I do now? I was guilty of this for far too long. I kept having ideas of the future, such as, well, if I can just make it to this point, sure, everything will get better, or look, if I can just stick it out to then I'll be able to cope. But the reality is, it doesn't get better, you get better. So harness that energy with everything you've got, and you'll get there and continue to build on it.